I started shooting with my dad when I was very young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And, we started off with little baby handguns and I worked my way up to a 20 gauge shotgun really quickly. So my dad, just started calling. My dad's so silly. He'd be like, "Where's my little baby? Where's my little baby and her boomstick?"
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we normally showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week, but I had the opportunity to bring on an amazing person, and I promised you guys I would start celebrating the people out there in the arena, the people that are out there fighting against those buffoons that we talk about all the time. And today, we're going to start doing that with a lovely person that I've been speaking to for a couple of days now. And it's going to be a continuation of some of that 2A exploration we've been on for the past couple of days. I am proud to introduce all of you to somebody who you may already know. She's kind of a big deal when it comes to the 2A community. She has many leather-bound books, and she's well-known throughout the community. I'm talking about Alicia Garcia, the Boomstick Babe. I love the nickname, by the way. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate this. Shout out to our mutual friend for bringing us together. I really appreciate that.
Yes, we can mention Christy. She's a regular here on the show. We talk all the time about how awesome she is. I don't want to get to her head, but she's pretty cool.
I don't think we can.
Well, listen, I can't say enough good things about her. I've known Christy for years and years and years, and she's the best.
She's always been very good to me.
That's wonderful. So tell me about the nickname. How'd you come up with Boomstick Babe? It's so cool, and it's cool, and it's in your face at the same time. But it also sets up, I guess, your personality, right?
My dad gave me that nickname, actually. So when I was a kid, my family is from Southern Colorado on my dad's side. And I spent a lot of time outdoors. My aunts and uncles had a lot of farmland. We spent a lot of time like shooting sporting clays and things of that nature. But since we hunt, we fish, we camp, we're outdoorsy people. And one of the things that I learned quite early in, the time that I was a wee little girl is that the world has predators. And when you're a tiny little, delicious human being that is, riding around on a golf cart or a ATV or a dirt bike in the middle of nowhere, there are predators. There's pumas, there's mountain lions, there's wolves, there's things of that nature. And my dad made it very clear to me at a very young age that I am one of one. I am precious. I am perfect exactly the way I am. And that I deserve the right to fight. And so my dad gave me I started shooting with my dad when I was very young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And, we started off with little baby handguns and I worked my way up to a 20 gauge shotgun really quickly because there's a lot of bad, wolves and things out there, and a 22 and a 9mm and a little 380 is not going to stop those types of predators. So the deal was, if I'm going to be outside and we're going to be doing those things, I need to know how to use a shotgun. So my dad, just started calling. My dad's so silly. He'd be like, "Where's my little baby? Where's my little baby and her boomstick?" And it just it just came a thing. And when my father passed away 10 years ago, I just made that like my screen name, because it was like a kind of an homage to my father, because I was always talking about guns. I got really fed up with gun laws, and I became, very eager to speak out and push back. And I was like, in honor of my dad, he was the very first person to put a gun in my hand anyway. So it was just kind of a thing, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, and it's such a sweet story about your father. And now that takes you around the country advocating for, pro-gun issues and the Second Amendment. You were just recently in Texas, right?
I just flew home from Texas this evening. I was in Texas for 4 days, I think. I am very proud of myself right now. I'm beaming. If you don't know, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to jump out of my skin.
I was going to say something, but I don't know you that well. So,
I'm usually pretty high energy, but I just completed a very, very difficult firearms instructor assessment and qualification. So I just completed the defensive pistol program that USCCA has. This is my first time ever working with USCCA. Actually, I've never worked with the United States Concealed Carry Association. I have a lot of friends in that organization and people that have been good to my friends for quite some time. However, I'm not one of those people that really reps a lot of brands. I like to be as authentic and as original as I can to people, so they know I'm not a puppet or people aren't buying me. And so for a long time, I thought that they did a good thing. I just never really repped a brand. And one of my really good friends, his name is Kerry Dugan. He basically revamped the USCCA's training model because the training model that they had was horrible. And it was something that he and I had talked about, over the course of a few years of me saying, the reason I don't carry the USCCA stamp of instructor, firearms instructor, is because I think that it's a little mass produced. It's a little frivolous that anybody can take a class and say, hey, I'm now a firearms instructor. And I think that somebody who is teaching people how to wield a tool of defense, such as a gun, every day and carry a gun on their body every day, deserves to be very well accredited, and it should be a very significant vetting process. And to me, it was like, well, I don't really want that stamp on my name because it doesn't really mean anything, because there's other people that have that stamp that are less of a quality of an instructor than I am. And not saying that I'm the best and I'm the greatest of all time. I'm working on that, but I think that it's something that should come as a badge of honor, as something you've earned with experience and have testimony. And I just didn't feel it was that way. And then Kerry was like, we have a different program that we're coming out with, because a lot of other people felt the same way. So they said, well, let's be solution oriented and let's figure something else out. So Kerry actually helped develop a defensive pistol program for instructors through the USCCA that is not an easy qualification whatsoever. And as of yesterday, I am the third or fourth woman in America to have passed this qualification and been able to get it. I think there's less than 40 people, or like 60 to 40 people in America right now who are certified in it. Has like a 67 to 70% fail rate. So
wow.
It's not an easy qual.
I'm getting bar exam flashbacks right now.
I'm like, and I smoked it.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That brings up that, as you were talking about that, it brought to mind to me a discussion I've had with a lot of, not just advocates in the Second Amendment sphere, but just conservatives as well and other political observers, and how this decade is being defined by a crisis of trust in authority. People who are out there that claim that they are experts in every single field, whether it be politics, science, whatever it may be, that we've relied upon to be experts. And yet we find out that when you pull back the curtain, that you're told to pay no attention to what you're seeing and just rely on the quote unquote expertise. And I'm finding more and more that this is going to be the problem that sort of defines our American political culture as well, that the crisis of expertise and the lack of respect for authority because of that unveiling of the inadequacies of it seems to be the problem of our time, Agreed.
I feel as if, I'm rebellious by nature. I have always been an outlier. And it was actually really encouraged by my father. My father would always tell me, I didn't raise you to be silent. And, you're a Garcia. He's like, you're a Garcia. You're my baby. And my grandfather was the same way. My grandfather referred to me as La Reina, which means the queen.
The queen.
The queen. And my grandpa would be like, ¿Dónde está mi reina? Where's my reina? Where's my queen? And as a little baby girl, I remember my grandfather looking at me and sitting me down and having conversations with me. He talked to me like I was a grown person all the time. Like he never talked to me like I was a little kid and lied to me or withheld information from me. He always was very forthright and straightforward with me. And he would sit me down. And I have an older brother and an older sister. My brother was actually the firstborn son of our generation. So, you would think that they would revere my brother, but it was always all about me. And my grandfather would sit there and tell me, he'd be like, you are my heir. He's like,
Okay.
you are my legacy. He's like,
So now,
you're my
let
legacy.
me ask you this: am I gonna have to clip that out so your brother doesn't see that, or does he already know that?
My brother knows. My brother's my biggest fan. My brother is the most wonderful soul ever. I love him more than anyone. My brother's my best friend. He is my biggest fan. My brother reminds me every day that I am that beach. My brother calls me Bish. Bish, because he's like, what's up, Bish?
Oh, I have a younger sister as well, and I'm not going to repeat some of the names that she calls me, although she is the best in the world as well. So listen, I want to put some of your expertise to work here a little bit, and
Okay.
we had some off-air discussions about what can we talk about that's newsworthy that we can tie in to your expertise, and I found this story from Fox News in the context of the Trump administration's crackdown on crime. And it seems like the administration is also taking the opportunity to look at the laws in DC to see if there's any way that they can make DC more manageable for the citizens there. And part of that is looking at some of the gun control laws that, many people know Dick Heller and DC versus Heller and how he remains active there. But now the DOJ and the Trump administration is looking to streamline the gun permit process in DC. Now, I know you said you're an absolutist, and we'll get to the merits of permitting pro and con later on, but just want to get the news story out there for our people watching who may not be familiar right now. In DC right now, the concealed carry permitting process and firearms registration process would take months. There were stories of taking as much as 4 months to go through the process. And now it looks like the Trump administration is, as part of their Making DC Safe and Beautiful task force, which, by the way, what a name,
Right.
that they're trying to get that down to days instead of multiple months. We'll put a link in the description to the article, but I wanted to get your thoughts on this effort by the Trump administration as part of this task force to look at DC's laws pertaining to guns and to try to make it more gun friendly. What are your thoughts about the initiative itself?
I'm happy that something is being done because DC's gun laws are pretty egregious. I don't agree with any of them. Like you said, I am an absolutist. So just putting that out there, I don't believe in any type of gun law or any type of those red tape. However, we said this earlier when you and I were talking about, is it a start? Yes. And this is how we win big battles. This is how we gain momentum, is because how do you begin to eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So everything always seems impossible until it's done. And, I'm not okay with regulations. I'm not okay with asking permission. I'm not okay with registration. And I'm not okay with asking for permission to exercise my human and civil right of self-defense. However, those are all things that are implemented right now in DC. And we all know a right delayed is a right denied. And by asking permission to defend yourself is leaving you vulnerable. And I don't believe in allowing people to be vulnerable based on bureaucracy.
Right.
So to me,
I tend to agree. Yes.
Yeah. To me, I think it's important that we take every win that we can get right now as we're getting it, because we need to gain momentum. And what people, absolutists like myself, sometimes, they're like, well, we need more, that's not good enough. Why not just abolish all these laws? Which, yes, abolish them all. Heck yes. But what I see beneficial about doing it incrementally is they already know that there's people like me out there, right? That we're like, yeah, we're okay with getting rid of these laws. However, there's a lot of people out there that still believe that the right to keep and bear arms is a privilege and not a right. It's treated like a second class right. And when we do little incremental victories like this, what we're doing is reminding people and getting people accustomed from what's coming. I hate to say it, but it's true. I think we need to remind these people slowly but surely that we are going to take this back. I do not believe in the word compromise whatsoever, not only when it comes to the Second Amendment, but when it comes to my life. I don't compromise in my relationships. I sure as heck don't want to compromise when it comes to my way of life. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to be unapologetically me. So when we're getting these little tidbits of wins, I think it's important because we're setting a precedence for what's coming. And I think that we definitely need that.
I certainly agree with that, especially when you consider the laws on the books right now in DC. It's a culture shock almost to go from the hyper restrictions that are there to what the ultimate goal of a Second Amendment absolutist would be. For example, let's just run down some of the scheme that goes on in DC. They require permitting for concealed carry to reapply every 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. They have a ban on most semi-automatic rifles, and they have ammunition restrictions that ban an individual from possessing ammo for a firearm that isn't registered with them. They also have gun-free zones, including the National Mall, public transportation, government buildings, etc.
Alcohol.
It's crazy. I mean,
where alcohol is served. So essentially, if I'm not drinking and my friends are, and this is something that my friends and I do quite often, especially because I hang around a lot of people who carry guns, is that I like to have a cocktail. I like to have a good time, but I also don't want to be vulnerable. So it's nice to have friends that instead of having just a designated driver, like they're also the designated carrier, and those are people that I know that I could trust, that if something happens, we understand what we need to do in those moments. And it makes me feel a lot more assured. And things like this, these nuances of saying where you can and cannot be free is just a way of saying, we think we know what's best for you. So you're going to do what we want you to do or else. And just look at the crime rate in DC, right? Look at the violent crime and how rampant that is. And ask yourselves, everybody out there, how's that working for them? How's that working for you?
And you know what the crazy thing is? You know what the crazy thing about all that is? It's reliance to the person's own detriment. Because now you're relying on somebody else in government, the people that brought you such wonderful things like the DMV, to be able to be Johnny on the spot to protect you in a given community, when you should be trusted enough to protect yourself, and that way take that responsibility off of them. But then, God forbid, something happens to you in a jurisdiction like New York, and I know this because I'm an attorney, there is no duty to come to your aid to protect you.
Exactly. And I think, so I also teach concealed carry classes. I teach firearm safety. I teach de-escalation, situational awareness, defensive pistol, and things of that nature. And one of the things that I like to bring up in my classes is the fact that not only does law enforcement have immunity for not Mirandizing you and putting you under arrest, so it's very important why you need to shut the F up and not say anything when you're talking to law enforcement, but also that they can lie to you. They can lie to you. And that's legal coercion is what it is. And another thing that's detrimental that these people need to understand is that they have no duty legally by the Supreme Court to aid you for anything. And we saw that in Uvalde, where all these children were left for a madman to harm. And we saw law enforcement sitting around using the hand sanitizer with their thumbs up their behinds while innocence is being hurt. And it hurts me deep inside. And that's why I am so relentless and so outgoing when it comes to this topic.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Now, let me get a little controversial here, because I know we were talking about the streamlining of DC's permitting process, and you alluded to that because you are a Second Amendment absolutist, that there shouldn't be any permitting process.
Agreed.
Let's break that down for a moment, because I would think that I'm going to play devil's advocate, and because, again, while I am a conservative, I'm also a conservative from the People's Republic of New York, so that probably makes me a centrist in probably everywhere else in the world, right? wouldn't a permitting process guarantee the requisite education for a gun owner? Or am I
No.
off base on that?
No. And here's why. Do criminals take a educational process on how to own a firearm?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
So what we're saying to people is this, and I could go in deep on this. And first of all, I want to say thank you for wanting to have, friendly debate, because I really appreciate these moments.
Well, isn't this how we get to where we want to get to,
I
right?
agree.
And
And
by the way,
I
and
love
by
it.
the way, we have more debates within our own political side than we do with the other side because they're not willing to engage in the nuance of these topics. So
Yes.
I'm an attorney. The devil's in my details all the time. I think we need to get that out in the open to show people, especially on the other side, that we on this side of the argument, and even though I may not be as an absolutist as anybody else, but on this side of the argument, we can articulate the nuance and not be what they want to caricature us as, which is barbaric, moronic, low IQ, just like to hear the boom sound and things like that. I think the more we show that we're able to have honest discussions, it makes it beneficial for our side to not only make the case against the other side, but for anybody else observing both sides will see, oh, you know what? Okay, I can deal with this sort of discussion. So let's get into it. You said permitting doesn't ensure education and criminals don't need education. Continue on where you were.
I honestly think that it sets the standard quite low, because what you're doing is, if the government, Johnny Bootlicker, who, complies with what the government says, well, the government, and I'll use Colorado as an example because that's where I hail from and where I reside. Colorado just implemented the new concealed carry permitting laws July 1st of 2025, taking it that it is now mandated you have to have 8 hours of classroom time rather than the previous amount was, like, I believe, only 4. You now are mandated to have live fire training. Before, there was no live fire training mandated. And you're also required to pass a written exam. And it's 70 and 80% for the exams and 1 for the shooting qualification. Well, my disgruntledness with those things is that what we're doing by saying this is enough, right? We're telling the people this is enough. You go sit in a class for 8 hours, you go shoot 50 rounds. Guess what? That's enough, because the government is saying that's what we accept. So now the bar is set there, right? So people are walking around thinking that we don't have to train. We don't have to do anything, because if we did, well, why is that enough for the government? And that's creating this idea of what the government says is enough. Or as long as we're doing what the government tells us, we should be okay. And that's not only a false sense of security, it's also making people complacent and lazy. And it's also empowering the government to dictate what is enough for you, because my capabilities and someone else's capabilities can be completely different. I also volunteer my time to teach elderly and victims of domestic violence, as well as children, for free.
Yes,
And
I
I
keep
do that.
saying to everyone who will listen, the biggest advocates for open carry or concealed carry should, especially in New York, should be single minority mothers and the elderly. If
And
everyone
handicap.
knew that they were packing, I think that would be a great deterrent effect from them becoming victims.
Well, this is all these laws are sold to the mass populace as safety, right? This is in your best interest. This is how we regulate safety and how we encourage these things, but they're truly not encouraging it, because they're making it taboo. They're saying you have to ask permission to exercise a civil right. And people are saying, and then I hear the left, the devil's advocate saying, so you're okay with people walking around with guns without education? Yeah. And you want to know why? Because I learned how to shoot a gun when I was a child. It was a way of life. And when we allow to the rehumanization of gun ownership and firearm ownership and gun culture, what we're saying is, let's just stop treating it as if it's taboo and actually treat it as a way of life, like it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years. And when you do that, and we take away the stigmata of it being, of, oh my God, this, pay it forward, you have to do it in blood and commit yourself to this atrocious taboo thing. No, let's reintroduce it the way it always has existed in history. Is this is normal. This is normal. Wanting to stay alive is normal. Wanting to protect your family is normal. And do all the people that have used firearms in self-defense, are they all John Wick? No, they're not. They understand physics. And for people to say that guns are, for big, dumb, ignorant white people, because that's what they think we are. I get called a fascist and a Nazi all the time, despite the fact that my name is Alicia Garcia and, I look like this. I'm a pale.
You are the worst, Nazi ever. Let me tell
exactly.
you.
But the problem is that people forget that this is a martial art. This is a form of studying and discipline. And there's a lot of physics and things that come into play when you're dealing with firearms. You have to understand holdovers. You have to understand windage, and you have to understand force. You have to understand human response time. You have to understand, animalistic nature. Do I think that a older woman can point a gun in a direction and fire a firearm with just a few sessions of training to defend herself? Absolutely, I do, because I teach it. And I see the ability of children that have the benefit of biology and chemistry, and they have neuroplasticity, that they can learn things at an accelerated rate quite easily and simply because they have that neuroplasticity. They have all of these wonderful tasks that they can do because they're fresh in their mind to rebuild and create these neurological pathways of a skill. So why not hone that like I was when I was a child? And instead of making something taboo, we teach people to lead with respect and honor for the tool, treat it like the tool that it is. And here's the thing is, if you want to sit here and say, oh, people need education and training, well, then provide it for them. Offer this stuff in schools. Offer this stuff in elementary schools. Offer this stuff in middle schools. Offer this stuff in college. Offer this stuff in high schools. Because guess what? Normalize it and create that ability. And here we go. All of a sudden, we have a society that's armed, that's educated, that has respect for the tool and knows how to use it. And guess what? Now people like me, we're teaching people that want to do advanced level stuff, not like, okay, let's talk about the 4 rules of firearm safety. The 4 to 6 rules of firearm safety should be something that everybody knows, whether you like guns or not. And I get a lot of people in my realm, because I live in liberal, Colorado, where people are like, why do you need a 30-round magazine? Is the deer going to shoot back? And all this rhetoric that's force fed. And my response to them is, you should take a gun class with me. I don't want to know. I don't want to take a gun class because I don't plan around being guns. So then that opens me up to say, well, do you think bad guys have guns?
Oh, well, duh.
Do you think they do? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, would you know if I was a bad guy and I pointed a gun at you, say you don't want to shoot me, right? Say you're not okay with that. You don't want to use a gun and defend yourself with a firearm. Okay, but if I were to point this gun at you, could you tell me if the safety was on or not, if there was an external safety? Could you, if you got possession of that firearm, could you disable that firearm so now it couldn't be used on you? Maybe you don't want to use it, but if you gain control of it, could you look at it and know if it's a hammer fired versus striker fired? If a round is chambered or not, how to drop the magazine out and clear the chamber and maybe take the slide off of the firearm and take the barrel out so now it can't be shot. Isn't that something you feel that somebody who doesn't want to use guns should know? Because it's a safety issue, right? It's a way to save a life. And they look at me kind of puzzled, and it's like, exactly. There's that aha moment that makes them question, like, maybe I should know.
Well, first you see the brain freeze up a little bit, and they get that little dial going around, thinking, how can I combat this, and then you can tell they're not really not listening to you. And then something breaks through, and they're like, "Oh crap, my worldview might be starting to shatter." So one of the ways that also happens as well, and I think that you are very good at doing this, is by humanizing yourself on your own social media. By showing yourself wearing a kick-ass dress saying, "Guess where the gun's hidden?" Or showing yourself at the beach and saying, "Guess where I'm concealing the carry?" And it's showing everyday relatable activities that you then can show, "Hey, I'm just like everybody else. I'm not just at the gun range shooting perfectly at targets, or I'm not just showing off, hey, this is the coolest new gun that's out there." You're making it more accessible and relatable in a way that it meets people where they are rather than where you want them to be. So talk about the importance of that, and also plug all your social media so people see exactly what I'm talking about.
So for people out there that have no idea who I am, they're probably like, who is this chick and why is he talking to her? So my name is Alicia Garcia. I'm a Colorado native. I am a absolutist when it comes to the Second Amendment. I'm a firearms educator and a firearms coach. I teach a lot of people how to use firearms successfully and incorporate that lifestyle to their everyday world. I am a Colorado native. I am also the plaintiff in Garcia versus Polis. I am suing Jared Polis in the state of Colorado against Colorado's 3-day waiting period to obtain your firearm. I am also the director of communications and public relations for the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association. I am also the founder of an organization that's a nonprofit called the Second Syndicate with my business partners who run a gun shop called Spartan Defense. And my entire life revolves around the pew pews. So I live this, I eat it, I breathe it. This is my lifestyle. So for me, one of the things that brought me into this culture to be able to come out of the gun closet was the loss of my father. When my father passed away, I no longer had that masculine protector in my life that was handling everything for me. You know, the guy, you know, I didn't ever have to buy a gun for myself. My dad took care of it. You know, I never had to worry about if I had enough ammo or if I had the equipment that I needed or to shop for stuff because my dad took care of it. And when my father passed away, his brother, my uncle, actually stole all the guns out of our house and took everything. My father was still cold in his bed, dead, and my uncle went in the house and stole every firearm out of there, and it devastated me. And I fought it in court, and I brought it up. I did everything that I thought that I needed to do at the time, and I was given no recompense. I had no solace. And I looked at my brother, and, you know, my brother, we're both heartbroken from losing our father. And my brother also has a daughter who's my goddaughter, who's the light of my life. And I looked at my brother and I said, I wanted her to be able to learn on the same guns we learned on, because I want her kids to learn on those guns, because I want her to have that same value in her life of knowing she's one of one. She is priceless and rare and deserves to have every fighting chance to protect the ability to grow old. And my brother said, so what are we going to do about it? I said, I'm going to start all over. If I got to start all over, I'm going to do it. So I started buying more firearms. I started buying handguns. I started buying guns that I wanted to train with. And what I was experiencing was just such misinformation and sexism and bias to the way people were speaking to me. And it disgusted me. And how ignorant the community was. Like, I was being told things like, oh, I lost all my guns in a boating accident. And I was like, why are you saying that? Why are you dealing with control? Why are you finding a way to live with encroachment on your personal freedoms? I didn't lose a damn thing. I'm never going to lose a thing. You know, I'm not one of those people that's going to sit here and pretend that, oh, I'm just going to find a workaround. No, I don't need to do that. I have a right to this. This is a civil right. So I said, if I'm experiencing this, other people are experiencing this. So I have to do something about it. I have to be part of the solution. And I just, you know, I ran for it. And I figured out that if I can do this, I have to do it in a way that's authentic. I have to do it in a way that's true to myself. I can't be like everybody else and, you know, continue this narrative that to be a gun owner, you have to be a white male, who wears khakis and combat boots and carries a 1911, and this ideology that we had of what a gun owner was so archaic, and it was so played out. And I said, I'm okay with being feminine. Sometimes I'm a tomboy. Sometimes I'm going to wear, sequins and pink head to toe. Other times I'm in camo and I'm outside in wilderness being a tomboy and getting dirty. There should be a space for me too, which means if there's someone like me, there's other people like me, and we need to encourage them to normalize gun culture again. And the only way I'm going to do that is by being myself and showing people that it's okay. And you don't have to be like everybody else. You can just be like you. And you can make these decisions for yourself, and you can educate yourself on how to make these decisions to best fit your lifestyle, not what other people want for you. And it's kind of like that lighthouse in the middle of the ocean that's saying, hey, you have safety here. You have sanctuary here. Bring me your concerns, bring me your stereotypes, bring me your fears, and let's channel that and flip that into empowerment and education and training and confidence.
And doing all that without losing your own sense of self and your own self-identity.
Absolutely, because what may be good for me may not be for somebody else. None of us are the same. What I choose to carry and what I want for myself and how I carry is because that's what makes me happy, and that's how I feel most comfortable, and that's how I feel most effective too. And that has to be a huge factor in this decision making, is because I see a lot of people, their intentions are good, but I get a lot of men that are like, hey, can you talk to my wife because I bought her this gun and I want her to carry it? And I was like, well, that's where you messed up. You bought it for her and told her this is what she has to use. Mm-hmm. That's a personal choice. She needs to decide what works best for her, because it's like saying, hey, I bought you this dress, wear it for me. You don't know my body style. You don't know what makes me feel sexy. You don't know what makes me look good. You may not know my sizes. You don't know what styles flatter me, or how I feel good, or even if I like it, if it reflects me. Because if you're choosing it for me, it's a reflection of you, of what you want for me, rather than being a reflection of what I want for myself. So I'm like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. You're going to give her money and then let her pick her own gun, because it is a personal decision, because her capabilities may not be his. And if you want her to have a personal relationship with her firearm, or people want to have a personal relationship with their firearm, you have to love that gun. You have to love it. It has to be your best friend. It has to feel so right when you're together that we are going to be together. And which is exciting, because it's like, yeah, because now when I train, I like it. I feel confident. I'm capable because I know how to use my tools. It's not clunky or too big or too small for me, or things of that nature. And it encourages people to have that personal relationship with their firearm, so they want to use it and train with it more.
Absolutely. It's a great thing to hear. And the fact that you're willing to be that entry point for those people is really, really cool. Speaking of entry points, how can people find you on social media? Give me all the plugs. We're going to put them in the description below the video as well, so that everybody knows, if they want to find that access point, that you're there, ready, willing, and able to show it to them.
Awesome. So you can find me on all social media as at the Boomstick Babe, the at symbol, obviously. So the Boomstick Babe or Boomstick Babe on pretty much any platform. Heck, you could just Google me, Alicia Garcia, Colorado, and I'm like everywhere. Or Alicia Garcia guns, and it's gonna be me. I've become quite notorious.
I love the confidence. Just Google my ass.
I'm like,
that's what you need to do.
I thought I was biased because when I Google myself, it's me, and I'm like, well, maybe it's because of the algorithm or something. So I had my friend, I was like, Google me here in Texas, and he did, and he was like, holy shnikes, you're everywhere. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's me. So you can find me at the Boomstick Babe everywhere, or the Boomstick Babe on Instagram. I am heavily shadow banned because I share a lot of free information about firearms. So the best thing you could do is support me, is to like, share my comments, or comment and share my content, engage, tell people who I am, send people to me. I also have a concealed carry class that I teach here in Colorado, all around the state. It is concealed carry class of Denver. and you could book me if you want to. I also have a company where we work as your concierge. So if you want help building your range bag, if you need a custom gun fitting, if you want to shoot a different gun and shoot a whole bunch of different guns and see what works best for you, we could do that. I do defensive pistol. I also am now a defensive pistol program instructor for USCCA. So if you are an advanced person, you want to learn more of defensive pistol, get at me. We can have those classes. I also have a nonprofit called the Second Syndicate. You can go to thesecondsyndicate.com, the2nd.com. I also write a lot of articles, and I'm on the radio on Kim Munson at KLZ. You can hear me every Friday morning at 7:10 a.m. on KLZ giving a Second Amendment update as well. So I'm also the director of the CFFLA, Colorado Federal Firearms Licensing Association. So you can go to cffla.org and reach me there as well.
Alicia just broke the record for most links I'm going to have to put into the description. I thought I was grifting. I got to up my game, man.
Boomstick Babe. They'll be like, oh, I know her.
I absolutely love it.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.